So we open on the city streets with this guy doing one of those random street interviews, the kind you scroll past online but somehow still stop to watch. He's hyped for no reason, saying he's on the city streets, incredible, and starts asking people what they would do if they suddenly had $70,000. Says he'd pay off some debts, nodding to himself, then halfway through the sentence realizes something's wrong. 70,000 sounds big, but it's not apartment money, not even close. You can actually see the disappointment hit him in real time. Next up is a chubby guy who immediately talks about buying a car. No hesitation, no math, just vibes. This man is clearly starting from zero, already thinking wheels before stability, and judging by how he talks, he's probably not exactly swimming in attention either. But sure, let him dream. Then there's a couple, and honestly this one's easy. The interviewer barely finishes the question before the woman answers. She says they'd save the money. End of discussion. The guy next to her just nods along like, yeah, that was always the answer. Then the interviewer switches it up. He asks what they'd do if they were the richest person in the world. And this time, everyone freezes. This question clearly wasn't part of their preparation. One girl says she'd maybe try to enjoy life and have fun, which somehow sounds sad instead of exciting. Another woman says she'd first like to know how someone even becomes that rich before deciding what to do, which might be the smartest thing anyone said all day. Back in the studio, a woman comments that these were some interesting reactions. Now she wants to ask a bigger question. She says she wants to talk to the first Korean person to ever become the richest man in the world. She wants to hear his vision, someone who people claim can kind of see the future. The man sits there looking awkward. When asked directly, he immediately says he can't see the future, just straight up denies it, which sounds convincing for about half a second. Then suddenly, his eye glows. At the back of the room, there's an old lady holding a staff, and perched on top of it is an eagle. Nobody reacts. Nobody notices, except him. The eagle suddenly takes off, glowing with golden light, soaring across the room like it owns the place. The guy smiles, completely distracted, like a fool who forgot where he was. The host snaps him back, telling him to hurry up and answer. He says he's just a lucky investor, nothing more. And that's when it becomes obvious, we're not in the present. Did you really think we were going to start with a billionaire's life? Someone suddenly shouts his name, and he jolts awake, mumbling something about Kang Jinu. Reality hits immediately. This guy just finished his military service and came back broke, which honestly explains a lot. And for some reason, the same eagle he saw back in the army keeps appearing in his dreams. This guy is Kang Jinu. He's 23 years old, unemployed, broke, and completely lost. He lives in what's basically the basement of his mom's house. Not exactly future richest man material. But his life wasn't always like this. There was a time when he had a father who ran successful businesses and a mother who was gentle and kind. Back then, life was easy, almost perfect. Until his dad pulled the classic move, went out to buy milk, never came back. Later on, Jinu goes to visit a friend. And the moment he walks in, his eyes land on a shelf full of action figures. One of them is mid-tier quality at best, but it probably cost a fortune. Jinu just shrugs and says that collection, been huge since elementary school. There's no way he'd notice any difference now. His friend says Jinu doesn't appreciate the finer things in life. This guy's name is Taku. He's also 23. Taku asks what Jinu's planning to do now that he's finished military service. Jinu says he already graduated from college, so now it's time to start working and make life easier for his mom. Taku raises his drink and says he really is a good son. Jinu thanks him, especially because last Christmas, when Jinu was stuck in the military, Taku had dinner with his mom so she wouldn't be alone. They talk about random stuff for a while. Nothing important, until Taku suddenly says he has something serious to tell him. He found the password to his Bitcoin. Jinu looks confused, so Taku reminds him about a game called Ruda. A long time ago, when he was obsessed with that game, he sold all his in-game items to buy Bitcoin. And then, like an idiot, he lost the password. Jinu immediately understands how serious this is. Bitcoin from back then is worth a ridiculous amount now. Taku explains that he normally never cleans his shelf, but one day he decided to tidy up a bit, and that's when he found it. Jinu asks the obvious question, how much was in there? Taku answers casually, 1,120. Jinu freezes. Math starts happening very slowly in his head. After what feels like 36 imaginary scenes of calculation, he finally asks if Taku just made almost $9 million. Jinu completely loses it. He asks if Taku is insane. There's no way someone suddenly just gets that much money. Taku admits that he's confused too. It's so much money he doesn't even know how to feel about it. And while Taku is still processing his emotions, Jinu is already asking for a share like a true friend. He says no, flat out, because he already transferred all the Bitcoin to an exchange. Apparently Bitcoin is about to rise even more, so selling now would be stupid. That's when Jinu suddenly freezes, because the eagle appears again. Right there, clear as day. Wings spread, staring straight at him like it's waiting for him to notice. Then words start forming in the air, slow and unmistakable. That exchange is going to collapse. Jinu doesn't hesitate. He grabs Taku and tells him to listen very carefully. He needs to sell everything. Right now, not later, not after checking prices. Right now. Taku pulls back, completely confused. He asks what the hell Jinu is talking about and why he's suddenly acting like the world's about to end. Jinu insists. He says waiting even a second longer is too risky. Taku studies his face. Jinu isn't joking. He isn't panicking either. He's serious in a way that makes you uncomfortable. After a moment, Taku sighs and says fine. He already had his sister set up an account anyway, so selling wouldn't be a problem. But after this, Jinu better explain everything. Jinu just nods, still distracted, still wondering why the eagle keeps appearing only to him. Seconds later, Taku jumps up from his seat. The exchange servers just went down. Jinu immediately asks if the Bitcoin went through. Taku refreshes the page over and over, heart racing. By a hair's breadth, the sale went through just before everything crashed. They sit there in silence as the servers come back online. Then the news hits. Accounts wiped, balances gone, total chaos across the internet. Taku turns to Jinu slowly and asks how. How did you know this was going to happen? Jinu opens his mouth, then closes it. How is he supposed to explain something like this? So instead, he does the worst possible thing. He says maybe he can see the future. Taku just stares at him. This guy really can't keep secrets. But after everything that just happened, it's hard to call him crazy. The story jumps back a year, to Division 10 during mortar training. Someone yells at Jinu to stop spacing out and pay attention. He looks a bit lost and says he understands. And that's when the eagle appears again. Shining, unreal, way too epic to be just a normal bird. It flies past him, and suddenly words form in the air. A warning. He doesn't fully understand it. He wonders if it's something related to training. And before he can say anything, a mortar is fired. In that moment, Jinu learns something important. When people face imminent death, they don't think, they react. He screams for everyone to hit the ground. The area explodes. Everything turns into chaos. Some people die, others are injured. Jinu walks away alive. Back in the present, Taku says it's honestly a miracle he survived. Jinu explains that when he tried to tell people what happened, nobody believed him. They said it was confusion, trauma, his imagination. Taku leans back and says if something happens perfectly twice, Maybe it's not an accident anymore. Maybe it's a real power. Jinwoo admits it's possible, but how are they supposed to prove something like that? Taku, in his infinite wisdom, says belief is about mental strength. Even if a gorgeous woman appeared out of nowhere right now, he'd believe it. Jinwoo tells him to focus on something more realistic, like the money. Out of the Bitcoin, Jinwoo's share comes out to over 1.2 billion won. Taku says there's just one annoying part. Taxes. Jinwoo immediately asks if this bastard is setting up a tax haven. Is he sending the money to Arabia or something to avoid paying Korean taxes? Taku panics because Jinwoo guessed his plan instantly. Jinwoo shrugs and says it's not like he majored in economics for nothing. Taku explains that his sister's been helping him figure it out. Apparently, crypto taxes in Korea are brutal, so he's setting up a company in Delaware, the perfect place. The company name will be OTA. Jinwoo asks what that stands for. Taku smiles like he's proud of himself. Eventually, everything gets settled. On the same day Jinwoo finishes military service, he receives his first transfer. 500 million won. The rest will come later. Even with the tax setup, transferring everything at once would cost too much. For now, the remaining money is safe. Jinwoo sits there quietly. If this is a dream, he's expecting to wake up any second. Then he hears shouting. A crowd is gathering nearby. A woman in a coat is yelling at a security guard, complaining about her shoes. She says they're incredibly expensive and someone dared to dirty them. The guard keeps apologizing. The woman turns around and demands that the janitor kneel and apologize. Jinwoo pushes through the crowd. And then he sees her. The janitor is his mom. His expression hardens instantly. He asks what the problem is and why she's making such a big deal over something so small. The woman puts her hands on her hips and asks who he is. He says he's her son. His mom looks away and denies it out of embarrassment, says she doesn't know him. Jinwoo doesn't let that slide. He asks her if she really thought he'd ever be ashamed of her. The crowd starts murmuring. Phones come out. Everyone's recording now. The woman keeps talking about how expensive her shoes are. Jinwoo asks if this whole scene is really because of that. She snaps back, asking if he even knows how much they cost. So Jinwoo pulls out cash. He tells her to take it, but only if she apologizes to his mother. She hesitates. Taking the money would be humiliating. Jinwoo smirks and says if she wants, he can throw it on the ground so she can crawl for it. Completely flustered, she mutters an apology while checking to see who's filming. The second she finishes, she snatches the money and starts counting. Jinwoo calmly tells her manager that she should leave barefoot. He just bought the shoes. If she refuses, he'll report her for theft. Her face twists in shock. Jinwoo turns away, takes his mom and starts walking. The woman keeps shouting behind them, complaining that he's stingy and won't even wear the shoes. Jinwoo shrugs and says of course not. He's just going to throw them in the trash. The shouting turns into chaos behind them. Outside, his mom tells him he should go back and make peace. He hugs her and tells her everything's fine now. Then he notices how much weight she's lost. She says it's nothing, just work. Jinwoo tells her she doesn't need to work like this anymore. From now on, she won't have to work in places like this ever again. He'll take care of everything. She looks genuinely happy, smiling as she tells him he's grown up so much. They start talking about money, because of course they do. She asks him where he got all this money from, and he casually says he sold a game account with his friend, Otaku. Right on cue, his phone rings. A plane is landing. At the airport, a woman steps out, sharp expression, confident walk, straight-up boss energy. This is Otaku's sister. The moment she appears, you can tell she's not someone you mess with. At the hotel, nobody's acting innocent. People are staring. Then a car pulls up, absolutely covered in Otaku stickers. Obviously, it's Jinwoo driving with the legend himself in the passenger seat. They're here to pick her up. Walking through the hotel, Otaku comments that the kid driving a car like that is bold. Right as he says it, someone nearby clears their throat. She's standing right there. Tall, composed, tight skirt, scary aura. She greets both of them calmly, says it's nice to see Jinwoo too, then asks how he's been doing like this isn't intimidating at all. At a cafe, she asks if he finished his military service. He says yes. She casually suggests he should come work at Golden Gate with her. Jinwoo laughs it off and says if an international company like that would even consider him, he'd show up instantly. Then he notices she's gone quiet. He asks if something bothering her. She turns to Otaku and asks what happened to the money, because she heard the company storing it went bankrupt. The bastard smirks and says luckily he sold everything just in time. She looks surprised. He confirms that not only did he sell it, he already transferred everything into his company account. She exhales in relief, thank God. Jinwoo realizes that worried look wasn't about business. She thought her idiot brother had just lost 11 billion won. She pulls out a piece of paper and slides it across the table. It's the contact information for the guy who handles Golden Gate's financial transfers. She explains that if they ever need to bring a large amount of money into the country, they should contact him and he'll take care of it. Then she suddenly asks why Otaku sold everything at once when the original plan was to sell slowly over time. Jinwoo shrugs and says he just felt like selling immediately would be better. She studies him for a second, then asks if he missed her. He asks back just as casually. She flatly denies it, says she's here on company business and will be staying for 10 days. To him, that sounds way too long. She notices his reaction and reassures him she's staying at this hotel, so he doesn't need to worry. And of course, the company is covering all the expenses. Damn, big companies really are different. She stands up, waves goodbye, and says she has things to take care of. Otaku mutters that his sister is terrifying. Right then, she gets a call. There's going to be a meeting with a company called OPEC. Otaku vaguely knows they deal with oil and stuff. And suddenly, Jinwoo's vision hits again. The eagle appears. He's almost used to it now. He's already waiting for the message. The vision forms. OPEC is about to cut production costs. She notices his blank stare and asks if he's okay. He snaps out of it and says he just got distracted for a second. She tells him to keep an eye on Otaku because she knows her brother is useless. He laughs. He asks what the meeting is about. She explains that financial markets aren't just stocks. For companies like OPEC, everything is oil and gold. The United States produces a lot of oil, but it also consumes a massive amount because of wars. For a long time, it needed more oil than it could produce. Then shale gas changed everything. Now the U.S. exports oil too. The problem is what happens to the market. If oil prices in Korea drop below $50 a barrel, tons of companies will go bankrupt. That's why this meeting matters. Right now, oil is $60 per barrel and companies are already struggling. Jinwoo asks what happens if they reach an agreement. She says if that happens, oil prices will skyrocket. Everyone wins. Well, except normal people. The only ones celebrating will be billionaires. She asks why he's suddenly so curious. Jinwoo shrugs and says no reason. He just thought it would be cool if something like that happened. She says the forecasts say otherwise. Later, stuck in traffic in Otaku's car, Jinwoo keeps thinking about the message. If oil prices really are going to rise, this is an opportunity. He could buy now and sell later. It sounds insane. But he predicted the mortar explosion and Mountain Hill's collapse. The real question is how much to invest. He already set aside money for his mom. He has some cash left. Otaku suddenly asks if it happened again. Jinu realizes he's been staring off into space like an idiot. Damn it, this bastard notices everything. Otaku presses him, and after a moment, Jinu decides to tell him everything. Some time passes, and Jinu finally explains everything. About the eagle, the visions, the warnings that show up right before things go to hell. Otaku listens way too calmly for someone being told his friend might be some kind of walking economic disaster alarm. Once it sinks in, Otaku doesn't panic. Instead, he gets excited, because of course he does. Now that he knows Jinu is thinking about buying oil barrels and selling them later, they immediately start looking up prices. Right now, oil is sitting at $60 a barrel. Otaku says he can invest 12 million won without blinking. Jinu checks his own balance. He has 600,000 won he can afford to risk, and even that already feels scary. Jinu says they should figure out where to send the money first. Turns out everything goes through New York. Jinu's not even sure. The whole thing feels sketchy. Jinu says he wants to invest 300,000. Otaku laughs in his face and tells him to stop being modest. He says he's dropping 10 million. Jinu immediately calls him insane. There's no guarantee this works. His ability isn't confirmed to be some perfect prediction system. Otaku shrugs and says he doesn't bet small. If it's not at least 3 million, he's not interested. 3 million or nothing. Jinu tries one last time to warn him. Even if oil prices rise, things can still go wrong. Nothing is certain. Otaku doesn't care. Jinu gives up. Thinking about it rationally, oil prices have already dropped quite a bit. Even if the deal fails, they could still sell at a small loss. Still, investing that much money on a vision is terrifying. But fortune favors the bold. Jinu clicks confirm. And just like that, it's done. Now all they can do is wait for the OPEC meeting. By some miracle, Jinu manages to rent an apartment, $80,000 up front. The place is nicer than expected. His mom is thrilled. 2 bedrooms, a higher floor. She says they can see the sunrise from here. She's smiling like it's the greatest luxury in the world, and just hearing that makes everything feel worth it to Jinu. While unpacking, his mom suddenly goes quiet. She's holding something from one of the boxes, old belongings, things that used to belong to his father. As their homes got smaller over the years, there was less space to keep these things out. Now they're just memories in boxes. Jinu feels a sting of guilt. He joked about his dad going out to buy milk, but the truth is worse. His father worked himself to death. His mom holds up a photo of a house, a home his father built with his own hands. After he died, they couldn't afford to keep it. It was sold. Jinu asks if she still thinks about him a lot. She says of course. He worked so hard just to die like that. If only he had lived a little longer, he could have seen days like this. She starts crying. She quickly wipes her face, tells Jinu to finish setting up his room, and says she needs to rest. Standing alone in the kitchen, Jinu realizes how worn down everything is. The furniture, the appliances, even his mom. He tells her to stop working so much. He'll take care of it. Then he hands her a card. There's 100 million won on it. She immediately starts hitting him, asking if he's gone crazy and telling him not to hand out money like this. Then she calms down and says she's already saved enough. He doesn't need to worry about her. Jinu insists. He tells her to think of it as him finally taking care of her. After the apartment, the expenses, and the money he gave his mom, Jinu checks his balance. He still has 275 million won left. In theory, he wouldn't need to work for years. But obviously, that's not enough for him anymore. Later, Otaku shows up at the apartment carrying bags, a lot of bags. At first, Jinu thinks it's food, maybe jjajangmyeon. Nope. It's toilet paper. Enough toilet paper to survive an apocalypse. Jinu stares at him and asks why the hell he brought that as a housewarming gift. Otaku asks what he wanted instead. Jinu says maybe a TV, a fridge, something useful. During dinner, they talk about the bankrupt exchange from earlier. Total disaster. Everyone who invested lost everything. The company declared bankruptcy. Police and banks are hunting them down. Otaku says the timing was insane. Jinu predicted it perfectly. Jinu shrugs and says it was just coincidence. Otaku refuses to accept that. He slams his hand on the table and says nothing happens by chance. He has a theory. Jinu asks what it is. Otaku says Jinu's power only activates during crises. That's how heroes are born. He proudly declares that Jinu has an incredible oracle eye. Jinu just stares at him. His friend definitely has a mental problem. He tells Otaku to stop worrying about numbing the power and focus on the OPEC meeting. If things go wrong now, they'll lose a ridiculous amount of money. Otaku stays calm, says it's fine, they have the oracle eye. The next day, Otaku shows up early. The OPEC results are coming out. Jinu feels like he's trapped in an endless suspense scene. The meeting drags on forever. Prices start dropping. 3% down already. That's tens of thousands gone. Jinu asks if Otaku is still calm. Otaku says he's not worried at all. To distract himself, Jinu boots up a game. Otaku joins him, but of course, the idiot only plays dating sims with questionable taste. Prices keep falling. Jinu forces himself to stay calm. Even if they lose this money, it won't ruin his life. But at the same time, if everything goes wrong, they'll be right back where they started. He dozes off. Then he wakes up to Otaku screaming. The OPEC results are out. Every news outlet reports the same thing. An agreement has been reached to reduce production. Oil prices explode. Otaku asks for the price. They check. $73 a barrel. Up 20% almost instantly. Jinu immediately tells Otaku to sell everything. He has no vision about what happens next, and he's not pushing his luck. Otaku sells immediately. Later, they calculate the profits. When you have a cheat code, life really is easy. They made $630,000. Jinu just sits there, hands on his head, looking like a complete idiot. Since he invested less, he only walks away with $660,000. What an unfair world. Otaku laughs and says if he'd invested the full $10 million, he'd be swimming in money right now. But none of that matters compared to one thing. This was the third time. Luck might explain once, maybe twice. But 3 times means certainty. Jinu's ability to see the future is real. And as he sits there staring at the floor, one thought keeps repeating in his head. Normally, when someone gets a special ability, it's always physical. Stronger body, faster punches, breaking walls, saving people. That's the formula. But that kind of strength doesn't really matter anymore. Machines already do the heavy lifting. Now seeing the future, that's different. And if Jinwoo really knows what's coming next, that's not flashy. That's leverage. Of course, Otaku understands that immediately. He's not thinking about hero stuff. He's thinking outcomes. Sports results, market crashes, accident, stock spikes. Meanwhile, Jinwoo isn't celebrating. He's stuck on one question. When did this start? And the answer traces back to something uncomfortable. The mortar accident. Right before he was about to die. So now they're thinking maybe this thing activates in emergencies, which honestly makes sense. But then they remember something else. Bitcoin. The first time it appeared was tied to money. The second time, also money. Okay, now that's a pattern. Jinwoo thinks that's weird because the mortar incident felt like pure survival. But then they look closer. The malfunction wasn't random. It was corruption, cheap materials, companies cutting corners. And when that scandal broke, stock prices reacted hard. So even his near-death moment moved money. And in this world, once money moves, nothing is just personal anymore. That's when Otaku finally says what both of them are thinking. Simple deal. Jinwoo uses the ability. Otaku funds the investments. On paper, it makes sense. 600,000 won is nothing compared to 10 million, and who even knows how long this power will last? It could disappear tomorrow. Otaku even says he'll take the losses. If it fails, Jinwoo owes nothing. Which sounds great. Almost too great. And that's the problem. Because even if the ability is real, what if it's not perfect? What if he sees something slightly off? Jinwoo starts hesitating. Otaku doesn't. He has 13 billion won ready, sitting there, waiting. All Jinwoo has to do is shake his hand and step into a world that does not forgive mistakes. Jinwoo looks at the hand, then smirks. What if I don't? Otaku doesn't blink. Then we never see each other again. Yeah, that escalated quickly. And right when the tension peaks, his phone rings. Drinks end. Just like that, the deal is paused. He leaves Otaku there in under 15 seconds. Priorities. At the bar, some guys shout, Sergeant K. He corrects them, just a reserve now. And then we see the real danger. Two girls sitting there. Shinyuri, Hwangjae. And suddenly, the future-seeing investor might go broke for a completely different reason. He's already reaching for a drink. Someone brings up college. Jinwoo says maybe he'll finish quickly now that money isn't an issue. Shinyuri stands up, raises her glass, elegant, confident. She drinks smoothly. Yeah, she knows exactly what she's doing. Then Young-kan walks in, military senior vibes. Business talk starts immediately. 4 companies merging into one. Which sounds impressive. Until you remember mergers don't keep everyone. Some people are getting cut. Khan says he's thinking about investing if things go south. Several bottles later, he drops an opinion. There are no good investors in this country, only good entrepreneurs. Meanwhile, under the table, Yuri is taking a picture. Wait, is she recording? The guy next to her finally notices. She plays it off. She was supposed to meet someone else. And then she says the name. The entire mood shifts. Jinwoo freezes. Too late now. She's already walking in. And yeah, this is the ex. First time they've seen each other in 2 years. She looks at him like nothing changed. He tries to act normal. They talk surface-level stuff. Then he finds out she's dating Go Young-yang, 3rd son of a corporate tycoon. Right after she broke up with him. Convenient timing. She says he's changed, used to think he was plain. She apologizes for leaving when his life collapsed. Father gone, house gone, relatives gone. Military service. Mother struggling alone. Yeah, that wasn't exactly a good year. Now she says she always liked him. Which is interesting. Because when he asks why she broke up with him, she doesn't hesitate. Opportunity. She chose the rich guy. Says it openly. Her dream is to marry rich. At least she's honest. He asks what she means by that. She freezes. Realizes she said too much. Gets up, leaves. He just sits there. 2 years ago, he had nothing. Now his investments are paying off. Oil trade success. Money coming in. And he's sitting there wondering what success actually means. And right then the eagle appears, floating in front of him like it's been waiting. He jokes, offers it a drink. It ignores him. Takes off. Golden light forms words in the air. His eyes sharpen. We don't see the message. But judging by his expression, it's good. Very good. Next thing we know, he's at Otaku's house yelling, I want success. Morning hits, hangover hits harder. Otaku hands him a burger like a true friend. Asks what happened last night. Jin-woo says he doesn't remember. Sure. Otaku calls him out, says he came home shouting about something important. Now Jin-woo gets serious. Have you ever invested before? Otaku laughs, of course not. Jin-woo explains he studied finance, joined investment groups. But when he started with real money, 1,000,000 won, lost almost all of it. Basically, every investment dropped 50%. Otaku just stares. So you studied all that for nothing? Jin-woo shrugs. It's been 1 year. Now they look at the real number. 13 billion won. That's more than most people will ever see. And here's the part people don't think about. In investing, size matters. If you have 10 million and want 100 million, you need 1,000% return. But if you have 10 billion, 1% gets you there. That's why Otaku's oil trade worked. He invested big, which also means the risk was big. Otaku asks the obvious question. So when are we investing? Jin-woo raises an eyebrow. You already have 13 billion. Why are you still chasing more? Otaku doesn't hesitate. The more money you have, the better. I want more. Yeah, that checks out. Jin-woo stays calm. He's not moving yet. If the eagle doesn't appear, he's not touching anything. Jin-woo isn't an idiot. If this ability activates around money, then obviously he needs to surround himself with more financial stuff. So for the next few days, that's exactly what he does. Economic articles, stock trends, investment news, anything related to money moving. He's basically living inside the finance section, waiting, because if the eagle reacts to financial impact, then increasing exposure should increase the odds, right? Sounds logical. There's just one problem. Public information is useless. By the time news says something will go up, it's already gone up. By the time they warn it'll crash, it already crashed. So technically, you're always late. And after days of reading nonstop, nothing, no eagle, no vision. Now he's stuck wondering something uncomfortable. Did nothing actually happen that night at the bar? He remembers seeing something. But what was it? Otaku decides maybe it's time to formalize things. 50-50 split. They sign a contract. Let's just hope someone actually read the fine print. Jin-woo heads out to grab coffee. Otaku casually says there's no coffee. And at that exact moment, Jin-woo's phone rings. Female voice. It's Yuri. Yeah, the orange-haired one from the bar. He instantly recognizes her voice. Wants to grab coffee. At Starbucks. He walks in. She stands up quickly, smiling. Tells him to sit. She thanks him for coming even, though she called out of nowhere. He plays it cool, says he was nearby anyway. She notices him staring. Why are you looking at me like that? He smirks. You look like one of those K-pop idols doing dance covers. She fixes her hair. So that means I'm pretty. Smooth. Turns out she's from Shannon, which basically means rich. That explains a few things. Jin-woo doesn't waste time. So why'd you call me? She says she wanted to apologize for bringing Je that day. She didn't know Je was his ex. Fair enough. They talk about college. She says they'll probably end up in the same class. Okay. And then she gets shy. Says she wants a favor. Now Jin-woo sits up a little. Wait. Is this a confession? Is this happening? He's overthinking already. She finally says it. She just wants help buying a phone, because she's scared of getting scammed. Yeah. He definitely overthought that. He agrees. Mentions he's not good with electronics. She smiles. Just having you there is enough. That line probably did more damage than she intended. At the phone store, Yuri immediately asks for the Samsung L6. The clerk starts explaining features. Jin-woo just sits there thinking. Buying a phone shouldn't feel this complicated. Eventually, he wanders off. Picks up the L6. Remembers before the military, the newest model was the L3. Time moves fast. And then, the eagle appears, right there inside the store. Soaring above him. Golden words form. L6 discontinued. He frowns. Wait, discontinued. The phone just launched. Yuri calls him out. What are you staring at? He blinks. Oh, just a mosquito. Sure, but inside, he's smiling. Another vision happened. That's all that matters. On the way home, Yuri mentions she almost bought the gold one but chose blue instead. He casually says, yeah, looks nice. It's getting discontinued soon though. She freezes. Huh. And that's when he realizes. He said it out loud. He immediately makes up an excuse and leaves. Way too fast. Yuri watches him go. Kind of disappointed. She probably wanted that meal. Back at Otaku's place, Jinwoo bursts in. L6, it's getting discontinued. Otaku pulls up the stats. And now things get weird. The L5 sold 50 million units. The L6 is projected to hit 70 million. Samsung is dominating. So why would they cancel it? Patent issue? Maybe. But Samsung's been making phone since the early 2000s. They own most of their patents. Even if they lose one, they just pay a fee. You don't cancel a global bestseller over paperwork. So what would justify discontinuing something this big? They sit there thinking. Hours pass. Then suddenly, Otaku screams. His phone explodes. Literally. He was gaming. Left it charging. Now it's burning. And he bought it a week ago. They both stare at it. Okay. That explains everything. 3 days after launch, reports start spreading. L6 units exploding. Samsung tries to downplay it. Says 1 in a million is normal. Except here it's 1 in 10,000. That's not normal. That's a problem. Sales haven't collapsed yet. But trust, that's fragile. Otaku's just happy they figured out why the vision happened. Jinwoo is thinking bigger. How do we make money from this? Now it's complicated. This isn't buying oil barrels. This isn't moving cash around. They need timing. The next day, a Samsung rep replaces Otaku's phone. But there's a condition. Customers can't post about it online. Interesting. They're containing it. And the rep didn't even look surprised. Which means this is happening a lot. Phones are personal. People sleep next to them. If they start exploding, game over. Refunds, recalls, massive financial hit. Now the real question. How do you profit from that? Otaku explains. Short selling. Borrow shares at high price. Sell them. Wait for the crash. Buy them back cheaper. Return the shares. Keep the difference. Simple. On paper. Jinwoo is already thinking ahead. It's not about money amount. It's about share count. And scale. Otaku's ready to throw in 4 million. Jinwoo hesitates. There might be a bigger move here. They consider other methods. Binary options. Risky territory. And they're definitely not asking Otaku's sister. She'd never approve risking 13 billion on something unstable. Jinwoo says he knows a guy. Former investment club president. Some call him weird. Some call him a genius. Apparently, there are 2 types of geniuses. The ones good at everything. And the ones good at one thing. This guy. Numbers. Absolute monster with numbers. Started with 500,000 won. Turned it into 5 million. Lost sometimes. Still came out ahead overall. Eventually had 300 million to invest. But then he made one mistake. Bet big on a chemical battery company. Thought it would double. An accident happened. Stock crashed. He held, refused to sell. Thought it would recover. It didn't. Everything gone. Completely bankrupt. All because he got greedy with binary-style plays. If he had just bought the stock normally, he'd still be rich. Now, he's driving Uber, trying to survive, says losing everything taught him even 10-1 has value. That line hits. Jin-woo actually respects him, not because he won, but because he survived losing. They meet him at a restaurant. He looks exhausted, but sharp. Jin-woo gets straight to it. He wants to open a futures trading account. Now this is different. Futures means you agree today to buy a stock later at a fixed price. If price goes up, you win. If it crashes, you still pay the agreed price. That's the risk. Unlike normal stocks, you're locking in a future outcome. Which sounds powerful, until it is. And now we're entering dangerous territory. They spend hours running numbers. At some point, the math stops being realistic and starts looking ridiculous. If everything goes perfectly. 900 billion. Yeah, Sang-up hears that and immediately shuts it down. That's never happening. And honestly fair. This is coming from a guy who once had 300 million in his account and now drives Uber for $100 a day. Jin-woo just smiles. It's going to be discontinued. Sang-up instantly guesses why. The explosions. But he shakes his head. That's not enough. Jin-woo doesn't argue. Maybe, but nothing's ever 100%. Sang-up gives him one last warning. Be careful, you could end up like me. Then he leaves. Now the decision is real. Do they wait for a bigger crash and make a little? Or go in heavy and gamble on a full collapse? Jin-woo is convinced the stock will drop at least 10%. It jumped 10% from launch hype. That means it can fall just as hard, probably more. News outlets are starting to mention the explosions. And these two are already pulling up their screens. Deep breath. Enter key. Done. Whatever they just invested, it was big. There's only 800 million left in the account. If they really threw in 12 billion, that's insane. Jin-woo suddenly doesn't feel brave anymore. The next day, Samsung stock goes up 8%. Just like that, their futures bet. Bleeding. This is the part where your stomach drops. Otaku isn't smiling anymore. Samsung is handling replacements fast. Public response isn't collapsing. Jin-woo keeps calm. He saw the vision. He trusts it. But even he isn't fully comfortable. Will they announce discontinuation tomorrow? Otaku asks. Jin-woo shrugs. I hope so. Next day, CEO on stage addresses the battery issue. Apologizes. And then, instead of discontinuing, they announce they'll replace 6 million units for free. 6 million. That's not panic. That's confidence. Public opinion actually shifts positive. Stock drops only 1.5%. That's it. These giants don't crumble easily. Otaku starts packing. Half their money is already gone. 6 billion wiped. And now the contract hits different. Jin-woo isn't just losing his share. He's dragging his friend down too. That hits harder. That night he lies in bed. 6 billion. Someone could live comfortably forever with that. Gone in one day. And now to recover a 50% loss, you need 100% gain. That's math. Pressure builds. Otaku can't sleep either. They both go out for drinks. Might as well get used to being broke. They even joke about it. I told you we shouldn't have invested. No, I believed in your power. Time passes. Samsung keeps replacing phones. Stock starts climbing again. Out of 13 billion, Only 3.6 billion left. Luckily, some money was in safer stocks. Otherwise, game over. Otaku stares out the window. Goodbye, my beautiful money. Jin-woo isn't laughing. He's already lost 600 million personally. 1 week left before the futures contract expires. If nothing changes, everything vanishes. Sangup's warning echoes. Don't end up like me. Jin-woo buries his face in his hands. Did he misread the vision? Did he overanalyze it? Then, scene changes. A plane. Fire extinguisher spraying. Blood. A Samsung phone exploded mid-flight. And then, cut. Dream sequence. Except it's not. Jin-woo wakes up clutching his head. Eye glowing. Head pounding. This wasn't a dream. It was another vision. Plane ticket on the floor. December 9. 4 days left. He rushes to Otaku. 4 days. If this is real, they're fine. Otaku checks the stock. Still stable. Jin-woo mutters quietly. Nothing is over until everything is over. Then reports start coming in. More explosions. Contact point inside the battery causing fires. And then the headline hits. Samsung phone explodes mid-flight. Passenger injured. That's it. Nobody wants to board a plane with a ticking bomb in their pocket. Airlines ban the L6. Stock market opens. Samsung drops 10%. Experts say, perfect time to buy. Jin-woo. Nope, let them. Meanwhile, inside Samsung's executive meeting. Panic. Replace phones again. Maybe, but trust is already damaged. The vice president looks around the room. Model ship on the table catches his eye. His grandfather once told him about the ship of Theseus. Replace every part of a ship over time. Is it still the same ship? Same question for the company. Everything changed. Is it still the same Samsung? He slams the table. We discontinue the L6. Full refunds. Exchanges free. Massive loss. But trust matters more than profit. 1:40 p.m. Official statement drops. L6 discontinued. Market panics. Selling everywhere. Biggest drop since 2008. And somewhere in the system, an investment firm notices something. Someone bet billions against Samsung. And won. Big. Almost 1000x. They trace it back. Golden Gate. Otaku's sister's firm. Interesting. Meanwhile, these two idiots are staring at their screens. Numbers climbing. 1000%. 2000%. 3800%. They don't even react at first. Then they lose it. Screaming. Throwing things. Complete chaos. In the investment world, one person's disaster is another's jackpot. Their money, 685 billion won, around $470 million. Yeah, that escalated. They cash out immediately. No hero moves. No greed. Just secure it. Otaku stares at the zeros. Jin-woo nods slowly. I didn't know numbers could get this long. Contract says 50-50. Jin-woo's share, 336 billion won. Enough to build a skyscraper out of cash. He just sits there, processing. A few days ago, they were terrified of losing everything. Now they're multi-billionaires. He looks at Otaku. Friend didn't abandon him when they were down. Still splitting equally when they're up. That's rare. Jin-woo realizes something. One small piece of future information. Phone discontinued. That changed everything. So what happens if the vision is bigger? Financial crisis. War. Natural disaster. Otaku immediately cuts him off. Relax first rule, keep this secret. Jinwoo agrees. Only two people he trusts. His friend, his mom, no one else. Otaku is still celebrating. Jinwoo starts feeling something else. Samsung is one of Korea's biggest companies. Their loss shook the country. Money flowed out. Chinese and American tech stocks surged. Otaku waves it off. We didn't cause it, we just bet on it. Fair point. When money's involved, patriotism disappears fast. This time, they were on the right side. Now they lean back, dreaming. What do we even do with this much? Jinwoo mutters. Guess I'll need a tax haven. And honestly, they now have enough to live comfortably forever. Without lifting a finger. You really think he's satisfied? Not even close. Because there's one thing he hasn't told Otaku yet. The prophecy from the bar. The vision that mentioned OTK Corporation. And the CEO. Him. Now hold on. Is he about to steal his friend's company? No. Relax. He shakes hands with Otaku. They're not fighting for the top. They're climbing together. And then it clicks. A CEO doesn't have to own the most shares. They just have to run the company. And to know whether Otaku accepts it or not, subscribe the channel and press that bell icon.